Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Dr. Mohammed. I am the Executive Director of Eastern Mediterranean Public Health Network, Infinite. Today, we are celebrating a landmark event of the World Field Epidemiology Day. This significant day is a global movement set to recognize and raise awareness of the vital role played by field epidemiologists in protecting the health and population and advancing global health security agenda. This initiative aims to advocate for increased investment in field epidemiology training, operational research, and professionals. The first World Field Epidemiology Day is set to be celebrated around the globe on September 7th, recognizing the great epidemiologist John Snow. The rationale behind observing this day is to acknowledge epidemiologists. The initiative is inspired by the extraordinary visibility the past year's events have brought of the work of the field epidemiologists and their vital role in responding to COVID-19 pandemic. However, this visibility has not always resulted in understanding the importance of field epidemiology, nor in the increased support needed to strengthen public health systems around the globe to better detect and respond to outbreaks. Being a regional network that supports 11 field epidemiology training programs, FETPs, in the Eastern Mediterranean region, EMR, the Eastern Mediterranean Region Public Health Network, Infinite, participates in this initiative. Its participation will further solidify the role of the regional networks in supporting field epidemiologists and FETPs in particular, and increase the visibility of the FETPs in our region and their work. In the long run, achieving this goal may lead to more opportunities for investing in field epidemiology in EMR, which ultimately will improve public health practice in our region. Here, I would like to encourage all our FETPs in the region to share their work and stories online or organize events that highlight the significant role of field epidemiology. Our webinar today comes as a part of this celebration. Our distinguished speakers will be discussing the concept and the importance of Field Epidemiology Training Program Enterprise, the FETP roadmap, and the Strategic Leadership Group SLG work. We will be exploring the challenges and opportunities for the sustainability of FETPs in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, the blended FETP training model that Infinite customized will be introduced. Since the first FETP establishment, the number of FETP has grown and reached more than 80 FETPs functioning worldwide. Maybe Carl can correct me later about the exact number of these programs, with more than 16,000 graduates globally, thus making sustainability of the FETP enterprise more fundamental than ever before. COVID-19 will not be the last health threat or emergency, unfortunately, but this is the reality. Yet, it is a strike reminder that the cost of effectiveness and preparedness are overshadowed by the cost of failure to prepare. During the COVID-19 pandemic, FETP residents, graduates have been at the center of the response in their countries. In the Eastern Mediterranean region, as example, Infinite has been advocating and supporting the countries to institutionalize and sustain their FETPs. All stakeholders are expected to play their roles in strengthening FETPs through various strategic partnership and sustainability plan. On the other hand, FETPs themselves were challenged by the pandemic. Many FETPs training activities were interrupted either due to the COVID-19 related restrictions or the engagement of the FETP affiliates in the various response actions. Hence, the need was to develop a training modality that ensures the continuity of the program and build its resilience. Infinite has introduced the blended FETP model, where online and in-person training is adopted to train the cohorts. The model contributes to sustaining the FETPs and being in line with FETP roadmap. For today, the objectives of this webinar are to explain the FETP Enterprise, the Strategic Leadership Group, SLG, role, and the FETP roadmap. Secondly, to discuss common challenges and opportunities to sustain the FETPs and MEN specifically in Eastern Mediterranean region. And thirdly, to introduce Infinite blended FETP training model. Our webinar will begin with Dr. Carl Reddy presentation on the FETP Enterprise, the FETP roadmap, and SLG. Before I introduce our first friend or speaker today, I would like to go over a few points. First, please post your questions in the Q&A section. In addition, this webinar is being recorded and we will be available to all participants following today's webinar. It gives me great and pleasure to welcome Dr. Carl Reddy, our first presenter today. Dr. Carl is the director of TEFNET since August 2019. Previously, he served as the director of the South African Field Epidemiology Training Program. In June 2016, he was elected the leadership of TEFNET member programs for the 3-year team as a chairman of the TEFNET advisory board. He has also been a member of the FENET, African Field Epidemiology Training Program, board and directors for 2015 to 2017, a member of Affinity Human Resources Subcommittee, and a member of Affinet Finance and Audit Subcommittee since 2014, and its chairman from 15 to 2017. Carl, the floor is yours, and you have 20 minutes to present. I would like also to add that I knew Carl since more than 10 years. In addition to all what I mentioned, he is very benign, friendly, responsible person that we all in our region respect and admire, and we appreciate his participation with us in this evening. Thank you, Carl, for being with us. Please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed. It really is a pleasure being with you today and the EMFNet team. And I'd like to congratulate EMFNet for organizing this World Field Epidemiology Day. I'm just in the process of sharing my screen, and then we'll be able to move into the presentation. So here we go. Okay, so thank you very much once again. I'd like to present to you on the development and implementation of the Global Field Epidemiology Roadmap. So just in terms of background, you know, you are all familiar with the enormous growth in the FETP initiative since 1975. The number of new FETPs that were initiated, some with CDC support, some with WHO support around the world. Overall, the initiative of starting up FETPs has been a great success, but I would be remiss in not acknowledging the challenges that we have with increasing growth and complexity of the FETP initiative. You know, for one, there's been a slow pace of in-country institutionalization. There's been a challenge of assuring quality of FETPs with so many different FETPs in different countries. Clearly, quality does become a notable challenge. Thirdly, there's been the challenge of securing adequate, sustainable funding for FETPs. Over time, it's been clear that there hasn't been a clear career path for FETP graduates. And there's been a slower adaptation to changes in disease threats than we anticipated. Clearly, there's been the Ebola outbreaks in Africa, numerous ongoing disease threats, and right now we are living through the COVID pandemic. And then, of course, as with all development, there's the challenge of incorporating new techniques, technologies, partnerships, and opportunities. And of course, the challenge of cross-border collaboration for threats that obviously do not remain confined to a particular country. So in these challenges with the FETP initiative in June 2018, a diverse group of FETP leaders, implementing partners, funders, and stakeholders met to collectively develop a comprehensive roadmap for improving and accelerating the development of this global FETP partnership. There were 19 participants in the first meeting to roadmap in Bellagio, and you will notice that Dr. Mohammed was clearly one of the participants. All right. Okay, so in terms of the roadmap clarified the vision of this global effort of building field epidemiology capacity. It defined a new conceptual framing of the global FETP enterprise, which we will look at in more detail just now. And the partners and stakeholders came up with 7 actionable recommendations for improving and accelerating progress towards building field epi capacity. The vision of the roadmap is that every country in the world will have the applied epidemiology capacities needed to protect and promote the health of its own population, and importantly, to collaborate with others to promote global health. I cannot underemphasize the importance of collaborations, of partnerships between all the elements of this initiative to build field epidemiology capacity. The new framing was necessary because we are engaged in a complex global multi-partner effort to assure applied epidemiology capacity throughout the world. We called this complex global effort the FETP Enterprise. And in terms of a definition, it can be defined as the totality of the leaders, the funders, the implementing partners, government agencies, and other stakeholders engaged in this global effort, along with the associated workforce competency targets, the standards, the agreements, and the technology that undergird this work. Following upon the Bellagio meeting, there was a second meeting held in Geneva to put the roadmap recommendations into action. This was actually an implementation meeting held in February 2019 with the support of the WHO in Geneva. Once again, there were a number of participants from amongst our partners and stakeholders. And of course, EMFNet was well represented by Dr. Mohammed. Okay, so just in summary, In 2018, a diverse group of partners got together to collectively develop a comprehensive roadmap for the development of the global field epidemiology enterprise. The first meeting was Bellagio, 2018, and 8 high-level recommendations were developed as part of the roadmap. The second meeting in Geneva, 2019, saw the development of an implementation plan. And a key element of that meeting was the shared need to develop or to constitute a strategic leadership group, or SLG. TEFINET was charged with being the secretariat for organizing this SLG, which in turn would oversee the development, the implementation of the roadmap. Okay, so recommendation number 1 of the roadmap was to establish an SLG, which TEFINET was tasked to do and which TEFINET did. The co-chairs of the SLG were the CDC, and the WHO. And Dr. Rebecca Martin was the initial representative from the CDC to co-chair the SLG, and Dr. Mike Ryan from the WHO. Unfortunately, given the hectic schedule of Dr. Mike Ryan, he nominated Dr. Sose Fall to be the WHO co-chair. So that was with regard to recommendation 1. Recommendation 2 is that the SLG should continually monitor and assure needed improvements and changes in the FETP enterprise. The team lead for that recommendation is Dr. Carmen Barella Santos from the European CDC. The TEFINET point of contact is Jasmine Irish. And you have a list of the working members, which you will note. They are all leading public health figures and authorities in their countries and from their part of the world. So the second recommendation, the vision for the second recommendation was that it would continually monitor the FETP core competencies, the curriculum, and the program contents, and promote improvements and modernization as needed. Clearly one of these aspects would obviously be blended learning, which we will hear more about after I am done. Secondly, this recommendation was meant to ensure that FETP training and experience fosters the development of essential soft skills. Clearly, with the Ebola outbreaks, what became evident was the need for FETP residents to have interviewing skills, to develop empathy, to be able to listen. And thirdly, it is hoped that through this recommendation, we can foster a culture of lifelong learning, not only among FETP fellows and graduates, but also amongst faculty, supervisors, and mentors. Recommendation 3 is that the SLG should promote the development of applied epidemiology workforce targets. The team lead here is Dr. Simon Antara from AFINET, and the TEFINET focal point is Caitlin Winders. As part of this recommendation, the SLG and the working group in turn would commission a team to develop a basic conceptual framework and tool that would empower countries to do their own capability assessment. This SLG commissioned group would work closely with the WHO workforce partners to integrate the FETP enterprise with other global health workforce development efforts. Recommendation 4 is that the SLG should assure the development of a cadre of specifically trained FETP fellows and alumni available for rapid response to health emergencies. Dr. Mohammed is the team lead for this work group, and once again, the TEFINET focal point is Caitlin Winders. Clearly this recommendation seeks to identify the core competency, skills, and experience needed by FETP fellows and alumni for international response, and to specify and promote the development of the delivery and documentation systems for such competencies. Clearly, there needs to be mechanisms developed to fund and support in-country deployments for FETPs as first responders, such as an emergency fund that could be managed by the regional networks. Okay. Recommendation 5 is that the SLG should work with country partners to accelerate the rate at which FETPs become fully institutionalized. The majority of FETPs are housed within ministries of health and national public health institutes. But of course, we have FETPs that are housed in universities. The team lead for this recommendation is Dr. Nancy Knight from the CDC, and the TEFINET focal point is Jasmine Irish. This recommendation clearly would allow for advocacy for institutionalization, complete institutionalization of FETPs, and we would do this by negotiating with partner governments, ministries of health, and NPHIs. It would also promote explicit country planning for the transition from external support. A significant number of FETPs in the African region and other regions are still funded significantly by the CDC. This recommendation would also ensure the provision of technical support for transition planning. Okay. Recommendation 6 is that the SLG should continue, strengthen, and expand efforts to assure and improve the quality of FETPs and the FETP enterprise. The team lead here is Dr. David Blazes from the Gates Foundation, and the TEFINET focal point is Cheyenne Oliveira. This recommendation would allow us, the implementation of this recommendation would allow us to continue to enhance and expand current efforts to assure and improve the quality of FETPs, as well as the supporting network level elements of the FETP enterprise. Remember, we envisage quality as far broader than just the accreditation process. You know, we look to improve quality in terms of preparation and submission of abstracts and presentations at the global and regional scientific conferences, as well as FETP alumni networking. Recommendation 7 is that the SLG should assure sustainable funding for the global FETP enterprise. We recognize the need for sustainable funding in order to conduct all the activities that we would like to conduct at the network level. The team lead is Professor Martin Kirk from the Australian National University, and the TEFINET focal point is Ashley Hill. With this recommendation, the SLG will commission a group to develop a clear, defensible business case for the FETP enterprise, a set of marketing materials, and a long-term strategy to highlight the impact and value proposition of the FETP enterprise. Also to harness political support for the further development of the FETP enterprise and potentiate country-level solutions regarding both funding and job market issues. Clearly, the implementation of this recommendation would in no small way facilitate and assist with the sustainability of FETPs, which we will look at during this seminar as well. And finally, the last recommendation is that the SLG should foster enhanced alignment and integration of the FETP enterprise with key global health problems and priorities. The team lead here is Dr. Oliver Morgan, who's from the World Health Organization and who works closely with Dr. Sose Fall, the co-chair of the SLG. The TEFINET focal point is once again Cheyenne Oliveira. With this recommendation, the SLG will advocate for the inclusion of field epidemiology training programs as partners in global health programs and initiatives that would benefit from such support. The SLG would commission a paper mapping out the ways in which FETPs support global health programs and priorities, such as universal health coverage, the global strategy for human resources for health, the One Health paradigm, global health security and associated JEE framework and country action plans, and of course, the sustainable development goals. Just as an update in terms of where we are with the formation of the SLG has been well established. The SLG Secretariat at TEFINET has been established. The SLG charter has been drawn up and endorsed by the co-chairs and the members of the SLG. The members of the SLG have been confirmed. The SLG itself has had virtual meetings on the 13th of April this year, the 13th of July, and the next meeting is scheduled for the 12th of October next month. The working groups have been established to lead each recommendation forward. The team leads of each working group are members of the SLG, and of course the members of the working groups are also drawn from the SLG, but also the working groups are free to draw in people with the relevant experience and competencies to actually work in the working groups, and they don't have to be part of the SLG. The working groups presented to the SLG on the 13th of July, and they are currently finalizing their goals and objectives. We have also been tasked as the Secretariat to come up with a communication plan to increase the visibility of the SLG and the roadmap. And finally, TEFINET will continue its work organizing and supporting the working groups of the SLG and moving the roadmap recommendations forward to ensure implementation. I must note that collaboration with regional networks, FETP directors, fellows, graduates, partners, and stakeholders is critical to ensure the success of the roadmap. Thank you very much once again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Carl, for very informative and very organized presentation. Appreciate it. So we will keep the question, if you allow me, just to the end of the sessions. After the three speakers, then we can pick a few questions and so on. So thank you very much again, and we can move to the second speaker, Dr. Youssef. And Dr. Youssef, yani, I have Dr. Youssef is a professor of epidemiology and biostatistics at the Faculty of Medicine in Jordan University of Science and Technology. And he is currently the director of the Center of Excellence for Applied Epidemiology at Eastern Mediterranean Public Health Network, FETP. He is a master's degrees in public health from Tulane University and epidemiology and biostatistics from JUST and medical education from Manchester University and a doctoral degree in biostatistics from Tulane University. Dr. Youssef is a fellow of the Faculty of Public Health of the Royal College of Physicians of the United Kingdom through distinction. His area of expertise include non-communicable diseases, digital health, and maternal and child health. He has published more than 650 scientific papers in reputable journals and received numerous awards for his work. By the way, and it's worth to mention that Dr. Youssef Khadr was recognized as the best researcher in Jordan a few weeks ago. So congratulations, Dr. Youssef, and we are very happy to have you with us today and to listen to your presentation. Please, Dr. Youssef, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for your kind words and nice introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to talk about the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the sustainability of field epidemiology training programs. In this presentation, I'd like to highlight the responses of FETPs to COVID-19, the challenges are facing during this pandemic, with focus on EMR, and I will propose some strategies to improve sustainability of FETPs, field epidemiology training programs. You know, since the 2009, when 4 programs were established in the region, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and Pakistan, a total of 100 cohorts graduated from advanced FETP field epidemiology training program, which it is 2 years program. This yielded more than 900 graduates in the region. Considering other modalities, including basic field epidemiology program, which is a 3 months program, more than 830 persons graduated from this program, and almost 55 persons graduated from intermediate FETP, which it is 1 year training program. Since the beginning, when the crisis, when COVID-19 hit the region, GHD Infinite worked hard and intensely to support countries to prepare and to respond to COVID-19. In April 2020, GHD Infinite developed a COVID-19 strategic preparedness and response plan to support countries in different strategic areas related to COVID-19, including but not limited to cooperation and coordination, research and innovation, surveillance, rapid response team, technical expertise, and etc. For example, I was involved in this area where GHD Infinite formed a research group in the region who studied more than 16 studies and published more than 16 papers in reputable journals. FETP residents and the graduates, honestly, they were and continue to be soldiers, big soldiers in the war in fighting FETP. Their activities was, amazing. Actually, they were involved in everything, preparing and responding to COVID-19, in surveillance, case investigation, contact tracing, screenings at airport, developing protocols, training on infection control, collecting data, doing data management and analysis, developing plans, developing dissemination and health messages to the public. So they worked day and night, helping people, protecting lives and saving lives. This is really what was not easy task. There were many challenges facing FETP in all countries of the world, especially in the EMR, where some countries are with unstable situation and under political arrest. So trainings in these countries were honestly insufficiently prepared to respond adequately and swiftly to the shock caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Almost all programs in the EMR, the training were delayed in these programs. There was actually many interruptions during the training. There were substantial constraints that hindered the continuity of good quality training in the field epidemiology programs. Also, assessment processes and certification were disrupted because FETP residents were deeply involved, having no time actually to learn more in the field of field epidemiology. Sorry. Also, research in the times of COVID-19 has become more demanding in terms of research methodologies and the delivery of sound scientific contributions. Mentors also were highly affected because they were not well equipped with the necessary technology and internet access in some of the countries. In fact, reorienting training strategies in a short period of time created a great stress, pressure, and an anxiety on mentors and on trainees. FETP residents and the graduates were overloaded, were exhausted, burned out. So because they are working hard day and night, especially in the countries, as I said, that has conflict and unstable political system. They experience also other challenges, including shortage of PCR as an example, they were faced by travel lockdown and IBC gaps. Now, why we need such programs to be maintained? This is, I don't think it's a right question, because existence and functionality of FETPs are integral to solving the dynamic public health challenges that keep arising from time and time. To sustainably prevent and control the priority disease condition in the region, we should maintain FETP's sustainability. An important aspect of sustainability is to ensure that the program services are maintained through the continuous provision of these services. There is really a need for such programs to be maintained, and there is a need for offering or establishing more programs in the countries that lack such programs, simply because COVID-19 really increased the demand for an enhanced public health response, trained staff in outbreak investigation, surveillance, and emergency response. Here now I propose some strategies to sustain FETP during pandemic and future pandemic. The first strategy is to transition to alternative modes of training and assessment. However, this should be done carefully, because there are many stories now for even developed countries and the best universities in developed countries where the transition to e-learning and distance learning was really facing some troubles and failures in some institutions. So if we'd like to transition to alternative modes, we need actually to augment this with a clear pedagogical strategy. We need to understand clearly the blended learning approaches. We need to appreciate their benefit, but at the same time, we need to be aware of challenges and shortcomings. We need to build the capacity for training on the use of a blended training, learning that involves a combination of face-to-face learning, remote training, online and offline instruction, and also high-tech, low-tech, and no-tech solutions. We need to improve internet infrastructure in the countries and ensure affordable connectivity. It would be great also if we learn from existing theories, like the theory of a crisis management teams, the stakeholder theory, and the distributed cognition theory, to build an FETP enterprise effectiveness and sustainability model during pandemic. We need to invest in the development of adequate crisis response plans for practical skill acquisition and work-based learning. We need to develop and reinforce capacities of FETP mentors, managers, and advisors to adjust constantly evolving conditions and situations, where those of the COVID-19 pandemic or any future crisis. We need to work smart and mainstream successful emerging innovations in our new training programs, learning platforms, and resources. It is great if we communicate the key lessons learned, the know-how, and the best practices cultivated during the COVID-19 period will lead future interventions in similar situations. The psychological aspects and the impact on the behavior of trainees and trainers, as well as academics and researchers, really need to be analyzed further. We need to leverage internet and communication technology and integrate intranet, social media, and online communication platforms into trainees' daily life, as this will help to establish trust and build bonds. Actually, all of these strategies were adopted by GHD Infinite, but still there is more effort to graduate and to train more FETP and health professional, public health professionals. And also there is a great need and demand for establishing in new field epidemiology training programs in other countries in the region that don't have such programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf. Thank you. Very interesting and informative presentation. Thank you very much. Colleagues, please to keep dropping your question in Q&A questions that we come back later on, and we can raise these questions. So thank you. Move to the today our third speaker, and we have Dr. Haytham. And Dr. Haytham, Dr. Haytham Bashir is the director of the International Academy of Public Health, IAF. He is also the workforce capacity team leader at Infinite. He is an assistant professor at School of Medicine, National University in Khartoum. Prior to these roles, Dr. Bashir worked as a director of teaching and education at the Public Health Institute, Sudan, and the director of the Emergency and Humanitarian Action Department at the Federal Ministry of Health in Sudan till 2010. Besides teaching, Dr. Bashir works as a research supervisor and external examiner for many universities. He has experience in designing and implementing education and training programs. He has published work in emergency management, capacity building, and training. Dr. Bashir holds a PhD in disaster management, a master's degree in public health, and he is MD. Dr. Haytham joined Infinite since 7 years, and I think, Dr. Haytham moved the workforce, at GHD Infinite in beautiful way. And without his effort, maybe we did not reach the level that we reached today. So we are very welcome to Dr. Haytham, and please, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes, then we can open the floor for questions. Please, Dr. Haytham.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, and thank you, Carl, Dr. Yusuf. Pleasure being one of the speakers today. And I think it's both difficult and easy to talk after Carl and Yusuf. However, they paved the way to my presentation today. So in the following 15 minutes, I will try to share with you our experience here at the GHD Infinite in trying to be in line with the FETP roadmap, as well as ensuring the sustainability of the FETPs in the region through innovative way of delivering the classic or the conventional FETP training programs. So in my following slides, I will have a brief background with addressing mainly the concept of blended learning, specifically the FETP blended model. And then I will share with you what we have achieved so far here at GHD Infinite and the common challenges that our programs in the region faced and how we could mitigate them. So as you know, the concept of blended learning, including the online approach, has paid attention for early this century, and the recent COVID-19 pandemic has even drawn more attention to this model, and it shows acceptance and a utility among different education as well as training programs. And this is applied to schools, the high schools, universities, as well as post-education program and professional training. Among the factors that support the popularity of this modality is that it has proved its pedagogical advantages as a way of teaching. Second, the availability of advanced technology in our nowadays world that also facilitate the usability or utility of this model, and also the coverage and availability of internet in almost all corners in our today's world. And on top of those factors, there is an ongoing intensifying demand for more trained workforce, as Dr. Yusuf mentioned in his presentation. Still, we need to see more trained health workforces. So there are many definitions for blended learning. However, all of them, they come under two main categories, if I may say. One is methodological definitions, and the other category is the one that is based on the learning theory. So one of the common definitions is that it is a method of teaching that integrates technology and digital media with traditional instructor-led classroom activities. An example of learning theory definition is that the blended learning is an appropriate use of a mix of theories, methods, and technologies to optimize learning in a given context. So as the word literally means, blended, we have online or e-learning component, we have in-class physical training environment, and the blended is a mixture of the two approaches in different ways, as we'll see shortly. So again, there are various types of blended learning. Commonly, they are categorized under four main groups. The categorization depends on the ratio of the online against the in-class component, also the stations and the interaction between the students and their teachers or trainers. So among the four common types are the rotation model, and this is the one that we have adopted here at GHD EMFNet. Under this rotation model, we have three subcategories: station rotation, lab rotation, individual rotation. And again, it depends on the interactivity between the teacher or trainer and their students. And here again at GHD EMFNet, we followed the flipped class model, where these trainees or residents, they study the theory, the sessions by themselves or through instructors, but online, and they convene in class for a shorter period compared to the classical way to do more hands-on training activities like solving problems or work on case studies, drawing curves, and so on. So here at GHD EMFNet, our blended FETP model follows the rotation model, flipped class model. Why we went with the blended learning model as in general, because as I mentioned earlier, it has a proven effectiveness. And many studies, including high school, by the way, not only the postgraduate, it has proven that it increased the retention of information after the session compared to the physical attendance or in-class sessions. Also, the students or residents, they master their subjects better. Again, compared to the traditional way, it's more efficient in regard to the cost, running cost, and as well as the time and efforts needed for management. Of course, in the beginning, when we develop the materials, when we convert them to online, that might seem to be of high cost. However, this is just the development phase, but not applied for the implementation. Again, it is flexible. It suits many learning styles. We have slow learners. We have fast learners who cannot catch up and follow the trainer in class, so they study at their pace. Again, the modules are available at the website or the LMS, to the students, and they can be customized according to the needs. And as we all know, this model limited or minimized the barriers that were related to the travel, like security and also time spent on those kind of training. As a side or secondary objective or secondary outcome of this blended, it proxy increase the skills or build up the skills of our residents in using and dealing with technology, not necessarily only for the FETP, but for other training courses as well. So specifically for the FETP, as Dr. Yusuf mentioned, many of our FETPs have been forced to either delay or put on hold their training activities due to the restrictions, or because they were busy responding to the ongoing pandemic. But even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we have witnessed many obstacles as well, like very busy scheduled with the workstations and other personal, maybe social or economic reasons that were seen as barriers for our residents to join the programs. So classically, the FETP is provided as in-class training, where the theoretical part, the sessions that are provided in class, and this is followed by a period of field work where the residents apply their skills that were gained during the workshops. Having all those factors in mind, we at GHD InfoNet, we have been through rigorous discussions and brainstorming within our team with experts from the region and beyond on the best way to solve this problem and to come up with a satisfactory, effective training modality for the FETP. And many questions were there to answer, like what part of the curriculum can be provided as self-paced learning, what must be provided as interactive, what can be synchronized, and so on. So again, it depends on our target audience, their skills with technology, the availability of infrastructures regarding the equipment and internet connectivity in our countries. So following this brainstorming and extensive work, we have come up with this model where we provide our workshops, the FETP workshops, as two parts. One is asynchronized online self-paced learning. And here the residents, they study by themselves the theoretical parts. Still, instructors are there. They are available through the learning management system to address any questions or queries raised by their residents. Following this self-paced component, the residents are convened into an interactive session where they can come together, and the instructors make sure that to consolidate the knowledge that they gain through the asynchronized self-learning. Also during these interactive events, they do some exercises, case studies, and hands-on skills. And similar to the classic way, they go back to the field and do their assignments and field projects. This is just a quick comparison between the blended flipped class FETP, again, is the classic. The main point that I would like to draw attention is the blended modality keeps the same learning hours as the classic. So the component, the content are not compromised, are not jeopardized. We are keeping the same learning hours. However, there are two differences. The first one is that it is provided in a longer period, because we assume that our learners, they have 3 hours per day on average, compared to the 6 hours in class modality. So it is logic to have a longer period, still same learning hours. The second difference is that whatever used to be trained or taught in class. Now they study it by themselves at their own time, because and this saves some time for them, maybe in the evening, during weekends, as per their convenience. Similarly to the intermediate FETP, the same, we keep the same learning hours with a longer duration, and it depends on how fast they do their online component. And so far, GHD MFET, we have designed, developed, and implemented. Now currently we are evaluating the FETP blended model for basic and intermediate levels. And this has been actually the work of GHD on online training started early in 2018. And now, fortunately, we are proud of our robust learning management system. And we have been now, as earlier we have a conference today, I can claim that we are pioneer in this, and we are supporting other regional networks as well as countries outside this region. So when we developed the blended model, we were very careful to ensure that we have incorporated the hands-on experience, because some claims that this modality might not be suitable for this kind of field-oriented or practical training. However, fortunately, we could incorporate those hands-on experiences. Also, we have utilized the system for different training styles, including sessions, exercises, case studies, everything that is being provided during the class or as part of the classic. You will find it here in our learning main system and in this modality, including the field work, where all the field work is tracked and managed digitally through what we call e-portfolio. So to complement this, again, and to follow up on what Dr. Mohammed announced today, that we have developed our 32 case studies. Now we could manage to transform those case studies into electronic case studies. Inshallah, very soon we will share it with our countries, and will be part of our learning management system. And just to, maybe you can visit our website and have a look into our learning management system. And here I would like to mention that in order to ensure the equity and accessibility to all, our training program is available in English, in Arabic, and French for our countries in the North Africa. So the three modalities now, they are ready and they are functioning in our website. So far, using this modality, working with our partners, we have managed to implement it in 6 countries. Now 9 cohorts are enrolled, and we have trained more than 180 FETP residents in this region using this blended FETP model. As you can see, we have applied both for the blended, the basic FETP as well as the intermediate FETP, and it is ongoing throughout this year and years to come, inshallah. So in order to be ready to answer not only to our reviewers, but to ourselves, how effective, how successful is this model, we are running an evaluation for the implemented cohorts. Thank you, Dr. Yusuf. He's leading this effort together with other experts from the region in order to check the model features, acceptability among the users, usability, effectiveness, and impact using the Kirkpatrick 4-level evaluation model with different methods and tools. And now we are started collecting data and analyze them. Those are some of the early results that we could extract from the system. And I think it is getting more than 75 or more than 80% acceptability. Those are just some of the early results. And for sure, we will disseminate the final evaluation findings once the 5 countries completed their training. So this experience was not smooth and without challenges. We have received some challenges and, of course, limitations, but we are working with the countries to solve them. However, among the common problems, of course, as you can expect, is the access to internet and connectivity, as well as the lack of equipment by some of the residents. So the model answers this challenge by itself, because as we mentioned earlier, it has a longer duration. So if they cannot complete the course as planned in 1 week, it is planned for longer duration, flexible timeline. They can connect during the morning time, during evening, weekend, at home, at workstation, and whatever. Also are working with our partners as far as we can to see how we can provide devices to the residents if available. Again, one of the complaints that we received is the busy schedule of the learners. And this is, again, the model also solve this problem through the self-paced learning approach. As we said, they can, the residents can program or schedule the classes upon their or at their convenience. Some trainers, they lack familiarity with the technology, and actually we see this as opportunity because we have designed specific orientation training pre-program, both for the mentors, facilitators, and the residents, to familiarize them with the learning management system, with the model and the use of technology in various functions included in the program. And of course, one of the barriers is the language, and as explained, this is why we are providing this program in Arabic, English, and French. So finally, I think we can agree on that the change is not an action, it is a process. So shifting from the face-to-face to blended FETP, I believe it is a process and will take time to get the people familiar with this new approach. And our role, our responsibility is to encourage applying or adopting this model and to solve the challenges that may face the implementation. Thank you, and very pleased to receive any question or comments from your side. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haytham. Very informative and interesting and something innovative approach. So we will open the floor, if you allow me, just for questions, and then we will end it warm up like in the past 5 minutes or so. So we will start picking a few questions from our colleagues. We have a question about, cross-border field epidemiology is very crucial. An example, the Horn of Africa region and inhabited by large number of non population who cross borders on regular basis. What strategies are in place to improve cross-border collaboration between countries concerned in this regard to control and contain epidemics? Maybe Dr. Haytham, if you allow me, since he's involved in the region, maybe Dr. Karl can talk about the global approach as well. Please, Haytham.
So Matt, can you?
It's about the cross-border.
Yes,
cross-border,
yes. Yeah, we have been working with our countries here in the region, not even before the current COVID-19, in strengthening their surveillance system. And yes, we are we see the effectiveness and the importance of the issue of cross-border. This is why we are coordinating and facilitating, bringing our countries together, especially the neighboring countries. We have a recent experience with Sudan and Egypt, like for example, I think here at the FEMIC, our Public Health Emergency Management Center, also they have a very ambitious project in bringing those countries together. The key point behind this is that no country can work alone, especially those kind of threats. They don't know borders. The political borders are not or they're overseen by those challenges. So unless our countries sit together, plan together, coordinate, and efficiently use their resources, I think we will be way back in confronting the threats to our region. We at PhD EMFnet, we are supportive of this issue of cross-border in collaboration with other partners, other players in the region who also work in this area as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Kari, would you like to add anything about cross-border, please?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I think, the issue of cross-border collaboration to mitigate outbreaks is critical, because we know that pathogens do not observe border controls, all right? And I think the new pandemic treaty formulated by the WHO takes this into consideration significantly. There is also a collaboration between WHO and the German government and setting up the new pandemic response center in the Robert Koch Institute in Berlin. And border health is also a critical element of their strategy going forward. And I think we also have the Africa CDC, who plays an important role in the region, convening ministries of health in order to collaborate on cross-border issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. A question to Dr. Youssef. Dr. Youssef, thank you for a very informative presentation. What is the future plans for continuing supporting advanced operational research and publication from the Eastern Mediterranean region? The question came from our colleague, Dr. Salma Afifi from Egypt. Please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Haytham, and it's nice to hear from Dr. Salma. Dr. Salma is one of the GHD Infinite COVID-19 research group, and I'd like to thank her because she is very productive, very committed to the work. Really, I enjoyed working with her. Dr. Asma, you are aware actually with the activities in the last 2 years, Infinite, supported the countries to conduct research. Or was one as an example is the research group where we conducted 16 studies and published 16 papers in a journal of public health as supplements. Also this year and in the last 2 years, we have Ustadna Dr. Sururi from Yemen and his colleagues. We supported Yemen to publish 17, Yemen and Pakistan to publish 23 papers in GMIR public health and surveillance, and another supplement with Journal of Public Health. Honestly, I will take this opportunity to thank Dr. Mohammed. He's the one behind the research productivity in the field of field epidemiology in the region. He keeps supporting this. He keeps pushing us to provide any kind of support. We have different modalities, in fact, supporting research in the region. And we will continue. Dr. Salma, the plan was also to repeat the same experience of this group who conducted research on COVID-19 to look at more priority conditions or other priority conditions in the region. So I'm sure that we will come with the future plans, and we will keep you informed and involved, and all colleagues from the region. Thank you for this question.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Youssef. Thank you. So the question here from Afghanistan, and Dr. Rasool is asking about, he's saying, thank you for the nice presentation of FETP Enterprise. Apart from infectious disease and NCDs, how do you see the strategic role of FETP in a humanitarian crisis, refugees, health, and conflict zone? And you know, Dr. Carl, our region is very unstable. We have our emergency, displacement, insecurity, all these things. So is this was considered in the roadmap, or we need to add something to treat, especially in our region? You know, this is maybe very specific to our region. Thank you, please.
Thank you. So the short answer is that I think FETP residents have a critical role to play in the context of humanitarian crises, natural disasters, and conflict zones. The truth of the matter is there are many regions in the world, you know, that has a challenge with migrants, with migration, and obviously the public health needs of migrants. There are many conflict zones around the world. So in a sense, this is now the new priority in many parts of the world. We've seen many natural disasters as well due to climate change. So going forward, this has been envisaged as part of the review of the curriculum, of the FETP curriculum, and the review of the competencies of FETP residents. So certainly going forward, this has been taken into account, and we must remember that what FETP residents learn is a toolkit. They get a toolkit in terms of field epidemiology and biostats, and this toolkit can be equally applied to infectious disease, non-communicable disease, natural disasters, humanitarian crises, and health issues in conflict zones. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Question this time comes from Morocco, Dr. Ahmed Rukeik, our friend. Thank you for the initiative to talk about FETP training. It does not focus on teaching method, but it must be taken into account that this is pandemic is an opportunity for training in the field. It seems to me as if Dr. Ahmed Rukeik is talking that we need better to use the current exercise or the current simulation exercise and the current COVID-19 rather than training. Dr. Haytham, maybe you would like to talk about Morocco a little bit?
Yes,
please.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for the question. And if I got you correctly, we are not only talking about the long-term or long FETP programs, but also here at GHU EMFNet, and in response to the current threat, we have developed a series of shorter courses, like 3 to 5 days, to specifically addressing critical points during the pandemic, including infection control, rapid response, and risk communication, just as examples. And almost more than 3,000 health workers within the region, they have benefit from those courses, short courses. So our learning management system is flexible enough to respond to any emerging threat. Still, our training, FETP training programs through the LMS and through the field work, they are adjustable to address any threats in our countries. Like, for example, the projects can be directed towards COVID-19 response, COVID-19 surveillance, and so on. If I got you correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So back to Carl. So we have very specific question to you, Carl, that it will be great to know more about the progress made so far on recommendation number 5 and 6 on FETP institutionalization, plus its accreditation and the quality improvement aspects. Recommendation 5 and 6, please, Dr. Carl.
Certainly, thank you for the question. So, you know, just to emphasize that the working groups to take forward those recommendations have been recently formed. The working groups are currently working on their goals and objectives and the activities that they would like to do in order to meet those goals and objectives. So the working groups will be presenting their finalized goals and objectives to the SLG on the 12th of October. and then the actual work or the actual implementation of the recommendation can then be taken forward. However, I must add, or just a reminder, that quality is far broader than just accreditation. But in terms of accreditation, the framework for accreditation for intermediate programs has been developed and will be launched very soon. There is a pilot in progress as we speak. There is also the re-accreditation framework for programs that have been accredited previously, 2-year programs that have been accredited, and the launch of the new accreditation cycle for 2-year programs will be in January 2022. So there have been significant advances in terms of accreditation, and the working groups are finalizing their goals and objectives. So their concrete work will start pretty soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So next question is to Dr. Youssef, where he asked about, expanding or including other countries from our region and to not restrict it for certain countries. Do you have any plan to expand the country engaged in operational research in Eastern Mediterranean region? And what about having multi-country operational research studies in the future? Please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Thanks for this question. In fact, we are not focusing on specific countries. It depends. Usually, as we work at the Infinite, we are approached, to provide any kind of support, and then we put a plan and go with supporting the country. So once we, for example, during the work of COVID-19, we received many calls, from Egypt that they are interested to, support them in the research, and we did. So we will never say in terms of research no to any countries. This would be actually, this is our mission, is to help all, especially in area of research. COVID-19 proved, now it is really a good lesson from COVID-19. We need to work together for a better health, because disease does not cross borders. So if the health system is good in Yemen, for example, not good in another country, the whole region will be affected. So in a brief, yes, we will be available for any country to support their, initiatives in related to research.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yusuf. The next question that it's really very interesting, Dr. Mir Islam Saeed, the resident advisor of Afghanistan FETP, is asking about possible collaboration between bi-regional networks like Infinite, Affinet, SafetyNet, and others. So maybe Dr. Karl can shed the light on this type of potential collaboration in the future.
Sure. I think this type of partnership is critical. And I mean, clearly there are a number of programs that are in countries, that share borders. Once again, the whole issue of border sharing. So whilst according to the WHO definition, they might belong to the EMFNet region, but they are geographically on the African continent. All right. So, they present ideal opportunities for cross-border collaboration. And I think this is important. TEFINET is in the process of finalizing memoranda of understanding with EMFNet and with Affinet, soon be followed by memorandum of understanding with SafetyNet, RedSec, and RedSur. So yes, I think we must not silo ourselves. There are countries who technically belong to one region, but that country programs rather, but have collaborations with the other regional network close by. And I think, yes, this should be allowed. There should be flexibility, because at the end of the day, we have to collaborate, we have to partner with each other. Not one regional network can do it on its own without the partnerships and collaboration.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And allow me to add that today, early morning, maybe a couple of hours ago, we have a session where TIFNet gather all regional networks together to share experience and to talk to each other and etc. I think this is very important step to bring all regional networks in one umbrella, and TIFNet is doing great job in that. And the other example that I like also to consider is Somalia. I saw a question from our Professor Maya Omar about whether we are expanding our work in Djibouti and Somalia. Coordination is very important, and I think Somalia is working with FETP, however, Infinite and somehow also there. So this is an example on how we can collaborate together, but we need to make sure that we are not duplicating, we are not repeating what others doing. So I think, yes, we can do it with different regional network. Another example that, as Dr. Haytham mentioned, that there is a potential discussion and collaboration between SafetyNet and Infinite to use the online blended model training. So the question is, yes, I think we have TIFNet as our big mother or the umbrella, and the regional networks can collaborate among these things. The question from Bangladesh that I cannot, they are asking us, Dr. Haytham mainly, any plan to apply the blended model in Bangladesh in the near future?
Yes, definitely. And we are now in discussion with our Bangladesh colleagues. Tomorrow, we are going to have a training need assessment dissemination workshop. So based on their recommendations, based on their preference, I expect to go for the blended learning in Bangladesh. Technically, logistically, we are ready. We want just to hear and have confirmation from the country. Yes, we are ready.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So there is also a very critical question that I am trying to skip always, but it comes this time from a person that we cannot ignore, Dr. Abdulwahid Srouri from Yemen. He's asking about the possibility of establishing journal. And I think this is a very long story that we need to talk with Carl even later on. But if Dr. Yusuf, you would like to comment on that quickly.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed again, and thank you, Dr. Abdul Wahid. It's great to hear from you. You know, first of all, before I answer this question, I'd like, to say that today we had the pleasure actually to celebrate this day by publishing and launching our ebook in the case in teaching case studies in field epidemiology and public health. Regarding to the journal, I totally agree, Dr. Abdul Wahid, because of the current situation that facing our region in terms of publication bias, being less likely to publish in English because it's not our native language, because of other barriers. I think establishing a journal in the region in field epidemiology, or at least applied public health, it is really a brilliant idea, and it is in fact it is in our agenda. We keep discussing this. It's not easy task because we are worried about the sustainability of this journal. We don't want to establish this journal without making sure that it is sustainable. Once that the day that we ensure that it will be sustainable, definitely we will go and establish the journal. And already we have some steps that we perform in this initiative. Another initiative related to this, actually now we are thinking of developing a new book actually in field epidemiology that considers the macro changes occurred in the last decades in the field of epidemiology. So possibly we will approach our colleagues, experts in the region and other regions to work together in writing this book. Another point, honestly, we are here at Infinite, we are really proud of the strong partnership with CDC actually in supporting our activities in keeping supporting the countries in the area of field epidemiology.
Thank you very much. And I think we have one question. If from anonymous person, if he can attend or she can attend any of Infinite webinars, activities. Yes, the answer is yes, we are open. Yani we are mainly working with FETP graduates and residents, but also, you know, we are colleagues and we are welcome our public health professionals wherever it's possible, you know, to join us in different webinars, etc. And you know, 1 minute, even this, you know, and as Dr. Yusuf said, I would like to end our webinar from CDC, Bassam Jarrar, our old colleague and one of the people who helped in establishing the regional networks, including Infinite. He's saying, I am reading, I am quoting, Infinite has instrumental in epidemiology training and strengthening public health system and workforce. The work and the leadership is impressive and example of other networks to follow. Thank you all for hard work and your strong strategic partnership with CDC. And we are very proud of our partnership with CDC. And of course, we are very proud with our partnership with TIFNET, and we consider TIFNET as a big brother or big sister for us that we refer to. So thank you very much, colleagues. We are ending, and unfortunately time is over. And I, on behalf of GHD Infinite, I would like to thank Carl. I would like to thank colleagues, Dr. Yusuf, Dr. Haytham for there, and I would like to thank all participants and our audience to this interesting webinars. We are very proud of having a special day for the applied epidemiology or field epidemiology. We were struggling for that. I think we were fighting for that and we got it. And we now have our own day that we need always to celebrate, and we need to bring our success to others and to show the importance of applied epidemiology in our work. Thank you all, and wishing you a pleasant day. And thank you, Carl, again for joining us in this webinar. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Bye.